Entrepreneurship is a mindset. It's not necessarily what you do. Because I promise you, if you're doing it for the right reasons, you will be okay.
What do we know about trauma scientifically? It changes the chemistry in the brain.
We can relate to one another. That's why this camaraderie is so awesome, because we just get it and we don't judge.
You can't fight new battles with old tactics. Your thoughts become your words become your actions become your character becomes your destiny.
What do you want to be remembered by when you're gone? What's Grounded fam? It's your boy Johnny Gio. Thank you guys for tuning in to the Grounded Phoenix podcast. As always, the purpose of this channel is to express vulnerability and expand awareness to addiction, trauma, and mental health. Joining me today is Julie, founder of the nonprofit organization Safe at My House. What's Grounded, Julie?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. I'm doing really good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Nice. Good to hear. So I know yesterday we had a little bit of technical difficulties, but we're back on it today, and we're making sure that we get the message across. And I'm really excited for this interview because your nonprofit organization really pertains to teenagers. It pertains to kids and helping them out in the sense of providing a safe place for them to, I guess, heal from certain traumas, from addiction. And I have 2 kids of my own, so I'm really wanting to pick your brain on how I could even improve myself. But before we go ahead and talk about the nonprofit, which I have a lot of questions on, I really just want to get to know more about you, Julia, and really how this idea came about. Maybe this ties into your own personal traumas or experiences. I know for me, the reason why I do this podcast is because addiction and trauma was like a huge obstacle in my life. And now that I'm on the other side, I just love spreading the message and helping people in every way, shape, or form that I possibly can. So without further ado, just go ahead and just, give us just a brief breakdown on who you are, where you're from, and how your passion came about.
Okay, well, I'm a 37-year-old mother of 2 girls, and then I have a teenage stepson and a teenage nepson, which is my nephew, but he lives with us, so
nepson, I like that.
Yeah, I made that up myself. So I started to notice that they are having a lot of trouble in their, their daily lives, with school, social lives, all sorts of, mental health, everything like that. I really wanted to do something different to try and help them, but also kind of be part of their social life while growing up. The whole reason that I started this organization was because I came home and my nephew was, in the front yard on the ground just sobbing, and I'm like, what's going on? He's totally out of character for him. And he muttered the words Ashton, which is his best friend's name. This kid that we all know in the neighborhood is super goofy, funny, loves to record music, really talented, great human being, loves his mom. He said that Ashton had been shot, and we were like, what? Shot? We live in Yorba Linda. What do you mean shot? This isn't Compton or anything like that, what's going on? We didn't understand the severity of it until we got the call that they were going to have to take him off life support. There was no brain activity. So I tried to get it out of my nephew what happened, and he told me that there was a drive-by shooting gone wrong, and I'm like, what? I'm like, that doesn't make sense. What really happened? My sister came to me and said, they don't want to be snitches, and that the friend, Zachary Pickerel, had a couple of friends over at his house after school to, hang out, and I guess they were recording some music, and an argument broke out about 2 other boys who had committed suicide through drug overdoses, and I guess those boys had beat up my nephew and Ashton a year ago, so Ashton didn't have any very nice things to say about them. Well, I guess this angered Zachary Pickerel, and he decided to, he was cleaning his gun and loading his gun, and he decided to put his gun into Ashton's face and said, "Are you afraid to die?" And Ashton, of course, being a badass, said, "No, you better shoot me." And he shot him. And I guess the story goes like immediately, like Zachary kind of figured out what he did and the severity of it, and he tried to, I guess he said, "Oh shit," so that was kind of brought out that like that was important that he said that to show that he had some remorse in him for what he had done. But him and the girlfriend disappeared while the friend was holding a towel on his face to try and keep the blood from, going everywhere, or, try and stop the bleeding. And they went and hid the gun and made up this story to Zachary's mom that a drive-by shooting had gone wrong. Well, the police got there. There was no evidence of any drive-by shooting, and it was quite clear what had happened. Plus, there was the third witness, which was the other boy that was there. And, he didn't lie about any of it. This is very, very traumatic that somebody actually lost their life, for 17-year-olds. It's way out of character. So I realized that none of the parents were really talking about this. Kids in the schools didn't even know. He lived across the street from Esperanza High School in Anaheim, Yorba Linda area, but there's like a small strip of Anaheim in Yorba Linda. And even the schools didn't have grievance counselors, nothing. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, this isn't okay. So I started calling my contacts and talking to people that I know and social media and stuff. And I was like, something needs to be done about this. Like, why was Zachary's mom so out of touch with him that he thought that this was the way to deal with an argument or deal with his conflicts? Why did he have a gun? He's 17, where did he get a gun? He lives in Yorba Linda. Like, just so many unanswered questions. So I decided to start this anti-violence movement, and I posted it on social media. Then I had a meeting with some people that really helped me out at school. Excuse me. And I pitched it to Terry Rose. She does SOAR Optimist, the SOAR Optimist grant. I believe their chapter is out of Huntington Beach. And she loved the idea, and she told me that she would back me for a year financially and support everything I did. And her husband's been helping me with everything, setting up the website, setting up the organization. So thank you to Terry and Hal Rose. A big shout out to them. Wonderful, amazing people that helped me get this going. And we've been up and running for about 2 months. And we've just been, doing everything that it takes to kind of get the groundwork of it done, so that now we really want to start to infiltrate the schools and really get some teens under our belt that we can help. So that's kind of the backstory of everything.
That is crazy, man. I'm just tripping out on how, first of all, teenagers at this age, I mean, I was a bad motherfucker back then, but I never really was somebody to put a gun to someone's head, especially if we all kind of kicked it together and we had like similar friends, because I really do think at that age you really you don't know what you're doing. I mean, it just sounds like he had a lot going on. I mean, as parents, we also have a responsibility, and I'm not trying to defend him in any way. How do you think, like, in your program, in your organization, you can reach out and help kids that are in that situation to prevent something like that in the future from happening?
Well, that's a good question. So a couple of things. We did do some digging, and we found out that his mom was having a lot of issues with him, and to where she was even kind of afraid of him. I guess dad had been out of the picture for quite some time, or either that or he just wasn't a good role model. He wasn't around. Had mom had options like us, instead of just to call the police on her son, because I know a lot of parents, they don't want to call the police on their kids when something is going on. So she probably just felt like she had no options. But she could have called us. We could have sent somebody just like you on over to hang out with Zachary, show him that you are cool, you are a badass motherfucker. Look at, like, you got tattoos, but you're sober, you have, like, your right mind. These kids, they don't have these role models that they need. They have the only role models on the streets, and those are not necessarily always the greatest people. We definitely would have sent somebody, over there that has a background in exactly, what he was going through, but has lived it and survived it and is now doing better. Kind of like a big brother, but
Yeah.
this wasn't in place at that time. So unfortunately, Zachary's going to spend the rest of his life in prison. He never got 1 day of being an adult, but he's being charged as an adult. So he's already been charged with first-degree murder, and now he rests in prison the rest of his life while Ashton rests in peace.
Wow, that's just tragic to hear. Both sides of the story. Nothing really ends up on a positive note right here, other than that you this kind of birthed like this organization that you're starting. Moving forward, what do you think are going to be some like obstacles for the organization as to how to reach teenagers? I guess to entice them to want the help, because I know for me, when I was a teenager, looking back, like I felt like I was a know-it-all. I felt like the way I handled things was the only way. Nobody can really get through to me. So like, what are some ways that you think you can get through to these teenagers and show them that there is another way, that there is a better way?
Well, definitely now kids do not think being sober is cool. So I would like to, introduce them to some guys that like they're sober, but you wouldn't think that because they have tattoos everywhere and they dress super cool and like they are what these kids want to be when they grow up, but they don't realize that the way they got there was by getting sober and having sobriety. So definitely an obstacle is recovery and sobriety and stuff like that. It definitely, working with teens is different than working with adults. There's parent consent, there's all sorts of licenses that you have to have, which is why a lot of people don't want to touch it. But I feel so strongly about it that I'm going to school for these licenses. I'm doing this right now, and I'm taking everybody with me. Anybody who wants to come and help, like, we're accepting you as long as you could pass a life scan and a background check. Let that be known.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I have gotten so much support and so much love from people that are definitely interested in this message and want to help these kids try and find a better way. I have a 14-year-old and I have an 8-year-old and I have a 3-year-old, and I guarantee you that when these kids go out, they are going to be safe at my house or at a house where I know they are safe, like not at a friend's house that has guns and mom isn't there and who knows what's going on. Like I'm not going to be allowing that. But also, these boys don't have the proper parental guidance. The parents weren't communicating with them the way that I do with my kids. That they don't have what's the word I'm looking for? Accountability. Parents have to be accountable. Your kids have to come first, as well as your sobriety, but your kids have to come first. You can't put your job first. You have kids. That's what comes first, is to make sure your kids grow up to be good adults, that they marry you and not the other way around.
Right on. That was actually my next question, is how can us as parents, improve in the ways of like just, getting to know our kids better, or, maybe allowing them to open up more, because I know kids are closed off. Sometimes we don't like to talk about things. I know when I was a kid, I was not very open-minded to like speaking to my parents, especially because it was my mom. I couldn't really relate to like her, and I didn't have my dad around. So what are some ways that the parents can improve? I think something that comes off the top of my head right now is there's a lot of parents that are not together, and they're like single parent households, which is mainly the mother. I really do believe that in maybe perhaps your organization, in your nonprofit, you can establish something where the parents, maybe they're not together anymore, but they can come together at a certain point and just spend time with their kid together as co-parents. I know for me, even though my mom, my kid's mother and I are not together, every time we do end up kicking it for a little bit and they see us together, you see like this big sparkle in their eye for some reason, and they're just like, oh man, mom and dad are together, and they're talking and they're laughing, and we have a great relationship now, even though she has kids with somebody else and she's moved on. I've noticed that. What are your thoughts on that, and what are some ways parents can improve?
Well, I mean, we're parents. We need to grow up, okay? Let's be okay with the new girlfriend or the new wife. Like, let's all be friends. Let's all go out, have dinner, barbecues together. Let's go to the soccer games, the basketball games, the football games. Let's go together and wear T-shirts supporting our kids, because these are your kids. whether you're not the birth mom or the stepmom or the girlfriend. These are your kids. You are influencing these kids. You are around these kids. You have to parent these kids. And if you don't be with somebody who has kids, because it's just the way it is. Like my daughter, I have an older daughter, she's 8. Her father and I are like great friends, and people think it's so weird, but I'm like, I go out with his wife to coffee. Like people thought we were together, me and his wife. They thought we were the moms, because my daughter would be like, I have 2 moms, and we were like, oh yes you do. You definitely have 2 moms. But we all love our kids, so we share the same goal, and that's to see them become successful adults. So
Right on.
we definitely have to get rid of the vacant parent that doesn't, realize what their kid is going through, or doesn't want to accept what their kid is going through. Because I can guarantee you, if that's the case, your kid may be the captain of the football team, but out of your sight, he's doing fentanyl. He's sleeping with girls. Like you can sit there and pretend like it's not happening until one of them gets pregnant or one of them overdoses, and then what? Oh, I didn't know. Okay, you didn't know because you didn't want to know. You have to get involved with your kids. I have my stepson's social media. I go on his social media. I stalk out his girlfriends. I talk to them. I invite them to family functions. I've become their friend. Not like just their friend. Of course, I'm still like mom that's like, don't do this. But I become
Right.
friends in the right that I am there. They can trust me. If they have an issue, they can come to me and talk to me about it. If they're having sex, like, come to me and ask me questions. Like, the best thing to do is to have knowledge on what you're doing. If you're not using condoms, she's going to get pregnant, or you're going to get an STD. That's the way it's going to be.
Right on. Very well said, man. Us as adults, we really do have to fucking grow up, man, and just understand that, hey, we have kids now. We have no time to be kids ourselves. One thing that I want to go back on that you talked about is, having that positive male role model, or positive even woman role model, because I do think that, as teenagers, we're easily influenced. And you said you guys are growing up in your kids are growing up in a pretty nice area, and so I really do believe that the environment plays a huge role. But I also believe that in today's day and age, I think the internet, social media, the music, and all of that stuff really does influence the kids and the teenagers as to what their mentality is, or what type of mindset they have. I know for me, I used to listen to Dr. Dre, and I had the Chronic album, and I was like freaking 11 years old, and that's exactly when I started smoking
Right.
weed, and that heavily influenced me. So I just, and you know what, I think also that's probably why I like to do these podcasts too, because I feel like even though I may not be there, someone does have the opportunity to turn this on their phone and watch these interviews, and gain knowledge or experience through somebody else's experiences, right? Or have like a role model per se that may not be physically there, but virtually they are there. And to your the point I was getting at about the environment is, like, essentially, our body is our temple, like our mind is essentially almost our home, because what's going on in here, we bring out exteriorly. So what are some ways that you can implement a way or a form of helping teenagers that, even though they do live in a decent area, they're still being influenced in a not so positive way? And how can we kind of like not dictate or control, but influence them in a sense where they can get like positive male role models, even though it's not in person?
Yeah, that's a hard one, because it's really hard to censor things, especially on the internet. Like, even if you try to do the parental controls, like, there's so many ways around it. I just really strongly suggest that parents definitely get involved with their kids. They be a good role model themselves, or project just healthy lifestyle of how to treat people, how to treat others. one thing that I suggest for all my kids and I offer to all my kids is mental health. And I say, do you want to look into maybe talking to somebody? And I know that my oldest, my nephew's son, he thought that was lame or whatever. I'm not going to use the word that he used. But he thought that that was really stupid. And now he's starting to change his mind. He's like, can you get me in to speak to somebody? Can I get mental health? And even my 14-year-old is like, yeah, you know what? I think maybe I need some help with mental health. So he's got a counselor at school. And my 8-year-old, she's been in, counseling and therapy ever since she was like 5, because I feel so strongly about it. And I even want to get my 3-year-old in so she can, be sitting there with a counselor, laying back like, oh, today was such a rough day. Barbie had this big old fight with Ken, and they're gonna break up or whatever. But mental health is so important. You really have to try and let these kids know that it is cool to have mental health. The music today, I don't even understand it. Like, you really can't even understand the lyrics of most of it. I mean, a kid just got trampled at a Travis Scott concert. How do you not know you're running over human bodies?
Yeah.
A lot of it is the media, like stuff like that. I would just say cancel the whole phones out and take them away, but then obviously your kids would go insane and turn into little, monsters or whatever happens when you take their electronics.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, you try taking things away that they're going to figure out a way to see anyway. So you really have to educate them on what is the right way, the right path. Spend time with them. Take them on vacations, whether they want to go or not. Like, get them out of themselves or their heads, I know that sometimes the camping trips we go on, we don't have service, so you can't be on the internet, and the kids go nuts. But then after a while, they're like, okay, like, you guys are around the campfire laughing your butts off. What's going on out here? And then they join in the laughter, and then that's the time is during that laughter that you can get through to them and let them know that you love them, you support them. If they're going through something, it's okay. We can talk about it. We can figure out answers. We can get you help. I mean, if you're using drugs, we can try and work on that, figure out a way to get you some help with that and maybe get you away from it. It's just so much with the social media. I hate to blame social media because certain age kids, right from wrong. Like at 16, you don't have the grace innocence past that, oh, I didn't know. Yes, you did. You know what's wrong, and you know that you're not supposed to lift a gun and put it in somebody's face and pull the trigger. There's no excuse for that. You don't have any sort of mental health issue that is that strong that nobody noticed that made it so that's okay for you to handle an argument. There's just no answer. There's no excuse for it whatsoever. So again, the parents, you have to be present. And unfortunately, some kids, they don't have 2 parents. And it would be amazing to have somebody that they can either speak to in person. In person is very important. Virtually, that's better than nothing. But in person is definitely important. All the recovery meetings that I go to, I bring my kids. I want them to meet other kids with parents that have gone through things, I want them to see other kids that have gone through things and have lived it and survived it, are now stronger because of it. So I just, suggest group meetings of like-minded teens, and yes, they might be them kicking and screaming and you dragging them there, but once they get there, you never know. They might have a great time. They might meet somebody amazing that can help them to change their lives for the better.
I agree. I think birds of a feather definitely flock together for sure. I want to just quickly go back to what you said about your kids actually being open-minded to mental health information and being open-minded to maybe seeing an expert on that. How did that come about? How was it that they all of a sudden were just interested in that? Just for people that maybe damn, I want to get my kid to therapy, but he doesn't want to.
Okay, well, I am a huge psychology major, enthusiast, everything. I love psychology. I think everything begins with the mind and how, you perceive things is how your day is going to go. If you have a good disposition in the morning, you most likely going to have a good day. If you handle the stones life throws at you in a certain way, you're going to just have a better outlook on life. You'll have a better life. I see a therapist once a week. I have a psychiatrist who I don't even need anymore because I don't need to take mental health medications anymore because I am better now because of all the help that I've gotten and received and all the work that I've done on myself. But when my kids saw me getting better, they started realizing that maybe there's something to this. Maybe she's right. I know she's crazy, but possibly she's got some knowledge that we don't. I know we know everything, but maybe there's a little tiny something that she does know that we don't, just because she's 100 years older than we are. So with that, the kids started kind of seeing that, well, mom's getting better and things are getting worse for me, but mom's doing this and things are getting better for her. So maybe we should try that. I have had to take my daughter a couple of times kicking and screaming, but then when she gets there and like she's playing with her counselor and like they're doing fun things, like I don't even need to be in there. It's honestly worse when I'm in there. She has a better time when I'm not in the room, and he gets more through to her when I'm not in the room. And now, because she's been working on herself, she gets to do equestrian therapy. Like, what?
That's awesome.
Equestrian therapy? She gets to work with horses and mental health at the same time. Who
That's
thought of
really
this?
dope.
They're genius. And then once my son, I know my son's older than her, but once he sees that she gets to work with horses, he's going to follow right along, you know? And then, okay, so let's just be honest. His therapist is hot. So that helps. She's a young, beautiful, smart woman. I'm like, that's the kind of girls you need to be looking more towards, not these ones on internet or social media with 80,000 followers posting provocative pictures of themselves. I'm like, those kind of girls are going to break your heart. The smart ones in the front of the class paying attention, those are the ones that are going to grow up to be beautiful inside and out. So
I like the way you put that.
Yeah, we are having some issues with the women and the depression, and that's another one that I'd like to touch on is gotta pick the right girls. Like you pick the ones that are like always looking for boyfriends, they're gonna be over you real fast and on to the next boyfriend, and your heart's gonna be broken.
Yeah, I think that's very well said. I think that at such a young age, because our hormones are just like all over the place, we prioritize that. But man, I had to have my heart broken plenty of times and been depressed plenty of times for me to realize that shouldn't have been my priority, you know? And I think it really does take someone that's been through it and guide you through it to really help open the eyes of a young man or a young woman that says, hey, like you have your whole life to live. There's no reason to prioritize, the puppy love right now and be at risk of maybe sexually transmitted diseases or being a mother or a father at such a young age without being financially fit, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually fit. So I really do think that leading by example, like how you were talking about, like you going to therapy yourself and doing all that, I really do think that that's the best way to approach things, just because you can't be a hypocrite. You can't be doing the opposite of what you're saying.
Do as I say, not as I do. Yeah, right.
Right.
It doesn't work. Monkey see, monkey do.
Right. So hey, moving forward, I want to talk about like some programs you have implemented or you're going to implement in your nonprofit organization as to how you will be helping these teens and young adults, or even parents might need the help themselves, with the violence, with the drugs and all that. Like, what are some creative ways that you're probably thinking of, implementing programs to help out the youth?
Okay, so one of the programs that we did already, we did a zombie bash for anti-teen violence awareness. And what I did was I funded it, but I had all teenagers set it up. So they were all doing all the work. They were all doing all the setup. They were doing the management. They were doing the booths. We had art booths, art vendors. We had pastry booths, pastry vendors. And there were all these young teens and developmentally delayed individuals. Even our DJ was developmentally delayed. but they got to feel like they were somebody, you know, like outside of being a drug dealer or on drugs, the cool guy that has the drugs or whatever. This was like the cool girl that had the art, and her art was super cool, and the cool guy that's doing the DJ, and everybody's dancing to his beats. And it was just so amazing to watch these kids like really feel like they're somebody outside of like drugs and addiction and violence, you know. It was just like all positive stuff. So that was awesome. We're going to do an annual zombie bash every year. Hopefully it just gets bigger and bigger and better and better. And I do employ or volunteer, whatever. I do allow a lot of teens to volunteer for me because I feel like that is definitely a way to get them involved, is to have them doing it. And when other kids see that they're doing it, they'll follow suit. Another way, or another program that we're working on right now is Sam's Happy Hour. So it's Safe at My School by Safe at My House happy hour, and it's kind of a sneaky way to get kids who are having social issues to come during lunch instead of wandering the campus or calling mom to come pick them up, or honestly having so much anxiety before they go to school that they don't go to school because they don't have friends or they're finding it hard to fit in. So we want them to come to us, and we'll have motivational speaking, we'll have comic relief, we'll have activities during that lunch break. And through that, they're going to meet other students going through the same thing, and then hopefully problem solved, right? I know it's going to be a little bit more work than that, but hopefully it works out. And I do have my contacts at the schools, so I'm hoping that we can get this implemented maybe before Christmas even. Possibly it'll have to be the beginning of next school year, because usually this kind of situation is usually in the beginning of the year, and then hopefully by the end of the year it kind of works itself out and they do find, you know, peers in their cohort to have, you know, to make friends with. So that's some of the projects that we're working on right now. We are just grassroots right now. We've only been up and running for 2 months. We've just gotten our board of directors together. We haven't even had our first board meeting, but we did have our first event. So, I mean, we're a little bit backwards, but we did see that we can do it. We can do it, and we have a great team. We have a lot of volunteers, a lot of people that want to get involved. So I think, and also with the Zombie Bash, we did have parents involved, and it was so cute to watch, like, the parents come support their kids and help their kids set up their little booths and stuff, and then leave. And, like, be like, okay, good luck, you know? And then mom comes back and is like, can I buy something? Can I buy a vase or a cupcake or two? And it was so cool. And then the other kids got to like meet those parents, and then I got to meet the parents, and it was just an amazing experience. It really was. And it was so great to see the kids that I have volunteer for me. They are now friends. Like, they now hang out outside of, like, Safe at My House functions, and they're, like, really good friends, and it's so amazing that, like, we have some success stories already, and we're just, you know, a little tiny baby company right now, or a baby organization. Excuse me.
That's amazing. I think that's great, all the work that you're putting in, you and, you know, your people out there. Hey, you know what, sometimes, you know, things don't work out exactly how we planned, or we don't, you know, things are all over the place, or you say you're working backwards, but as long as you're making progress and you're taking steps forward, hey, you know, that's steps in the right direction. So much props to you. One thing I do want to add is how can the community help your organization? Do you have a social media? Do you have a website? How can we help and give back to you so that we can also help you guys out?
Okay, well, there's always funding and donations, of course. That's very important. We do have a website. It's safeatmyhouse.org. And then on social media, we have YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And that's under Safe at My House. Look for the logo. It's this one. Here, I'll show you. Here's the logo. That's our logo. Yay!
Cool. Dope.
So look for the logo, volunteer, get involved, like us, repost, put the message out to your friends that we're here to help, we're cool. Like, we throw cool parties. Like, I was lighting off these, or not lighting, excuse me. I had these smoke bombs. They were different colors. I was giving out people's smoke bombs to everybody, and they were like taking photos with them and dancing with them. We had our music super loud, and like we were dancing and just having a great time, you know, without drugs or alcohol, no violence, because everybody's happy. So it really worked out. Yeah, so check us out on social media, on the web, safeatmyhouse.org and Safe at My House.
I think that's amazing. For sure, I'll make sure to link all your links in the description below. That way, in case people missed it, they could go ahead and just click on that, follow you, support you, donate, whatever way possible, and even go ahead and just volunteer. I think I might be one of those volunteers to head out there and speak or whatever, however I can help. I'm more than glad to do that. Before I let you go, I want to ask you one final question. Usually I save this for people that share their stories and talk about, you know, their recovery journey. But I think this is a great question to ask you just because I believe in your organization and I really do think that you have great intentions. So I believe there's 3 things in life that are guaranteed, and they're actually marked on our gravestone. That is our birthday, the day we pass, and the dash in the middle that represents the life we led. Instead of saying, what does Julie want to be remembered by? What does Safe at My House want to be known for?
Honestly, we want to be known for the Ashton Arus grant. Unfortunately, he can't be here to show his music or his life, and his legacy will very soonly be forgotten if nobody, you know, does anything to remember him by. And I want to send one deserving kid a year who fights for it, not like fight in that kind of way, but like writes a really good essay and really like puts in the effort to production school. And through meeting all of you guys, through this organization, I met all of you guys, and now we do have the resources to do that. So we definitely want to be remembered by the Ashton Arus grant, and we want to be remembered by the kids' lives that we've touched and helped to be successful adults.
I'll never be the same.